Ja, välkomna till Stora Aktiedagen i Göteborg. Mitt namn är Mats Ekberg och är moderator här. Vi håller på att presentera en del intressanta tillväxtbolag och nu har vi Heliospectra här. VD Ali Ahmadian och han har med sig sen sin IR-chef Rebecca Nordin. Men först börjar Ali och gör presentationen. Han kommer hålla den på engelska. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Ali Ahmadian, CEO Heliospectra. We are working with the kind of a lighting solution for horticulture industry. And I'm going to have a very short presentation. And of course, you're more than welcome to ask questions after the presentation. So our motto is redefining nature's potential. Today, when you're growing different type of crops in the greenhouse environment or indoor environment, basically it is hard to kind of make sure that the crop get the light which is similar to the light out of the sun. The company started 16 years ago, in 2006. We have done installation from 1 to 10 hectares in the different type of greenhouses and indoor farming facilities. We have offices in Canada, US, obviously our headquarters in Sweden, also in Japan. And since the company started as a research company, we have done over 1,200 spectrum tests. Means that we work with the different type of crops, like tomatoes, basils, all the different crops. Make sure that the spectrum of light and the amount and quantity of the light that those lights getting exposed is actually the most optimum one. And that is how the Heliospectra journey started, which I'm going to walk you through it. We have quite a strong patent portfolio, and our patent portfolio is around control and automation in the greenhouse environment, which is eventually can work with the machine learning and AI as we develop and have more installation going forward. So the driver for the CEA, and CEA stands for Controlled Environment Agriculture, is number one, population is growing. You know, in the next couple of years, we're going to have like 10 billion people living on this earth, so we need to feed them. Urbanization is happening, so there are more people living in the urban areas rather than in the rural areas. Sustainability actually driving a lot of the agenda. If you look at today, around 700 million tons of products, I'm talking about tomatoes, fruits, vegetables, shipped from one point to another only to supply the demand. So having a local production is absolutely value from sustainability point of view. Food security is important, you know, especially in the countries like here in Sweden, you don't have always sun. So how can you just make sure that you can have your supply, local supply, independent from the sun, availability of the sun? And last but not least is actually the resource control. So with the indoor agriculture and also controlled environment agriculture, what you're going to get is that you can reduce the amount of water consumption up to 98%. And just off the bat, when you switch from HPS, which is a traditional lighting system, to LED, you're going to reduce the amount of electricity consumption by 40%. What we do in Heliospectra is that we take these numbers and even minimize the amount of energy consumption and also the yield for the crop even further, which I'm going to explain for you. The company, as I said, started in 2006. It was a research company, so the first 8 years we were researching, we were answering one and only question: what is the most optimum spectrum for any particular crop? In 2014, we had actually our very first product out in the market, which was a LED lighting system. From 2014 to 17, we started to also introduce control system, which is actually, we are the only company today in the world that we're offering both LED lights as well as the full control system when it's used to the horticulture industry, making sure that the lagom amount of light always received to the crop. As a Swedish company, the word lagom is very important because if you go above it, you're wasting energy. If you go under it, also you're wasting crop. So we are making sure that the crop at any instant receive the just enough amount of light and the right spectrum. For the last 2 years, also we worked in development of our Heliocore system, which is a control and automation platform. And now for basically last year, this year, and going forward, we are introducing our patented technology, which is actually a sensor we call it right now, it's a biosensor, where you can actually communicate with the crop. Means that Using a fluorescence technology, what we can do is that we can ask the crop, is the light enough for you? Are you under stress? Is everything okay with you? And then we can adjust the environment accordingly. If you look at this whole 16 years, everything we did led up to the point that we are today. So with the research, and then we started kind of commercializing our LED products. So that means that we could connect with the greenhouse growers, we can understand their needs, and we can further develop our sensor technology. And by this, we can actually bring a holistic solution and offer it to the different type of growers, being a greenhouse growers or indoor growers, which I'm going to explain further. We have 4 business segments. Number 1 is actually LED lights, as I explained. Then we have control and automation control system, which is called Heliocore. We have our own services. Given the knowledge and the experience we gathered in 16 years, we offer those knowledge to the growers and as a consultancy service. And from next year, hopefully, we're going to introduce our sensor technology, which is a patented technology that we can actually combine all of this together and communicate with the crop. We are the only company actually have this technology and developed this technology over 16 years. That actually we can make sure that the crop receive what they need, and the grower is going to have a full control over their production. This is actually a schematic of the system in the greenhouse. So on the right side, you're going to have a schematic of a greenhouse, and then we have a vertical farm on the other one, and also we have a server room. So what we are offering as number 1 is the LED light system, those systems for vertical farming or greenhouses. We have our light control system called Heliocore, which is actually those boxes and the hubs and everything. Also, we have expert solution that we call it Heliocore, where we kind of, with the first one, we basically provide a vehicle. For the second one, we provide a steering wheel, so the growers can have a full control over lighting, so they know they can measure how much light they need, how much they need to produce, and we can adjust it accordingly. And with the third product, which are expert solution, we teach them how to drive. We work with them to make sure that they can optimize the use of their light and all the other system that they use in the greenhouses. And from next year, we are introducing our new biosensor technology based on 15, 16 years. As I said, that we can communicate with the crop. It's going to be installed on the level at the light. We constantly measure how much light received by the crop, how crop interact with that particular light, make sure that everything become optimized using our Heliocore control system. Here you can see actually all of our light portfolio. So on the top, we have a product category called Mitra, which is actually designed for greenhouse and also large operations, commercial greenhouses, up to the kind of 10 hectares, 20 hectares, you name it. It's a very, very sturdy and a strong product with a fixed spectrum. Means that the light and the LEDs are basically fixed based on the different type of crops that we're going to sell these products to. And the second one, our product category, Elixia, it's a variable spectrum light. Means that you can simulate the mornings, noon, afternoon, and make sure that the crop get the full cycle of light as it's happening in the nature. And coming back to our redefining nature's potential, making sure that the crops get the same spectrum of light that you get in the morning, in the noon, and in the afternoon and evening. Sierra is a category of product designed for vertical farming, where you're going to stack the crops on top of the shelves. So it's a very much compact growing. It's completely controlled indoor. And it is the most optimum way to use the area that you have. So instead of growing everything horizontal, you're growing also vertical. So you use the 3D actually to just grow different crops, which is suitable for like lettuce, herbs, short crops, not wine crops particularly. And Dyna, which is our legacy product, the first product we developed was designed and developed with a target to basically research and agriculture technologies. It has 9 different channels, so you have 9 different colors of the light, and you can kind of make a variable, and can define any type of spectrum that you needed, which researchers, they love this product. So this is actually our light platform. As I said, the light platform, the control, the Heliocore, everything led up to making sure that we can communicate with the crop, and that is where our biosensor actually coming to the place, which is actually this is something that we've worked for last 15 years to develop it. It was actually started from an idea, prototype it. For last 4 or 5 years, we've been doing tests and trials with the customers that we have, making sure that we can introduce a product that is work with a different type of growth environment. So basically what you can do is it has some surveillance and control, so you make sure that you can control the crop as it grows. Is everything healthy? Everything is right. It minimizes the pests and diseases, because if there is any stress because of pests and diseases, you can actually immediately notify by the sensor that, okay, this crop doesn't feel healthy, need to do something about it. If you look at it like a normal greenhouse, let's say a 5-hectare greenhouse today, on average, they lose every year $2 million only on the wastage of the product. And the reason that they're doing that is that we always, most of the time, the growers understand the problem after the problem is already spread. So if you can already understand that there is an issue happening with a disease, with a stress, can be environmental stress like light and humidity, or biotic stress like a pest and all of those, we can actually offer a lot of saving for those growers with this technology. And obviously, we can document everything, so the growers, they can repeat a successful kind of growth over and over again. The new control module comes with 2 basically modules in it. One of them is GTC, or growth tracking control. Here we make sure that we understand exactly how far the crop has been grown to the place that is ready for harvest. Today, normally we grow the crops 1 week or 2 weeks, even more than that, just to make sure that the crop is ready to harvest. Whereas with our sensor, you know exactly the time that you need to kind of do the harvest. That means saving on electricity, because you don't need to drive it another 2 weeks more, saving on water consumption, heat, and everything. But also we have optimal light control. This is where we understand there is a stress going on, there is a problem with the crop. There is a kind of, now it's a time to just make the change, and that is how we are working with this, by communicating with the crop constantly, and then eventually control everything through our Heliocore system. These are actually the 4 main and the fifth market segment that we have. Like number 1 is actually the commercial greenhouses, where you can grow basil, lettuce, tomato. We have been customizing the indoor grow facilities. This is where you use light as a sole source of lighting rather than as a supplemental light, mainly used for growing, medical cannabis, especially in North America. We have vertical farming, where we kind of stack the crops and they grow in the shelves, making sure that we can optimize the use of area in our production facility. Research and agtech, which has been, I think we have the largest market share when it's come to research and agtech, because of the particular products and control that we have. And from next year, what we're thinking is that the climate control system, all those companies that are kind of offering climate control system to greenhouses, they can use our sensor, they can use our control system in order to just combine it and integrate it together to offer to the customers and growers. If you talk about value proposition, I mean, basically, if you look at the problems that the greenhouse growers they have today, one is economy. So plant monitoring is very important, because they never understand, okay, you need to constantly be on the greenhouse, and imagine like a 10 hectare, 20 hectares of greenhouse. You need to constantly walk around and make sure that if there is any problem happen, you can notice that. Pests and diseases we discussed, and also the repeatability of the product. Once you do a production and you're successful, you want to make sure that the next year and next season you can do the same thing. And of course, data and documentation. We're focusing a lot on the sensor and automation in combination with our light system. So we make sure that there are different value propositions we can bring to the customer. For example, we can increase yield. Today we have customers that they're producing tomato, and we could, with the right light, right spectrum of light, we could actually double up the production per square meter. So from 60 kilogram per square meter of tomato to 110 kilogram per square meter. We can reduce the amount of loss and wastage, because we can understand exactly, okay, there is a problem going on, I need to make a change. So we can actually prohibit the spread of disease or the spread of the problem throughout the greenhouse. That's also another amount of saving to the growers. But also, since we're working a lot with the quality of the crop, So you're going to always get the same quality, optimum quality, and premium quality, regardless of how the weather going to look like outside. So you're not so much dependent on the weather, because we're constantly measuring all of this. Last but not least, I mean, there is a big list, but to also improve the consistency of the product. So the tomato you receive in spring is going to look the same as summer, winter, and autumn. But also consistency of the production. So if you have a high peak demand in the market, you can actually control your operation in order to make sure that you can deliver to that high peak. And also the other way around. Like dill in Sweden during midsummer is very much high in demand. But if you don't know how the weather looks like, you cannot be confident that how much you can deliver. With our system, we make sure that you can actually plan your delivery on point using the control, light, and sensor technology. So a little bit about our financial results. So this year, we were a little bit below on the net sales. And the reason was we invested a lot on our development projects consciously, but also that there is a post-pandemic that we are dealing with. The cost of a greenhouse has tripled, so there are less projects, but also we are focusing a lot on the large kind of operation, large installation. Our order intake, this is a little bit odd because we have one order canceled, a big order canceled last year, so we have -42, but this year, I mean, like compared to last year, we increased our order throughout this year and next year. And our operating result almost stayed the same as the year before, also mainly because of the investment we had in our sensor technology and productization. So the owners, basically we have 3 main owners, or 4 in this slide that you can see here. Welland, Adma, as well as Midrock. They all collectively have around 68% of the company, and the rest is actually free floating in the market. Our investors are very much committed. They've been with us for over 10 years, and we have actually a long-term plan and also working together going forward. By this, I would like to thank you all for listening, especially to my English, and I would like to welcome any question. Thank you.
Ja, då är vi välkomna med frågor här. Och Ali har sagt att det går bra med svenska. Han pratar svenska emellanåt. Och så har han stöd av Rebecca här. Hur mycket kan ni påverka produktionen med ert ljus?
Very much. I mean, there are like 4 factors when it's come to production. That is, you need to have full control. Humidity, temperature, nutrition, and light. And light is the most important one. So once you have a full control over light, actually this is the most expensive side of the whole production. Then you can actually relate to all the other 3 factors, make sure you can optimize the whole thing. And that's the idea of our biosensor that we're introducing, because this is not just focusing on light, but also focusing on how we can actually optimize the whole production in the greenhouses and indoor facilities.
Och ert ljus är mycket bättre än konkurrenter eller vanliga lysrör eller vad man har i normala fall.
Yeah, I mean, the answer I can say is that you can grow crop under any light, but the quality is going to be different. The kilogram per square meter will be different. We have actually, when we introduce a new product, like Mitra, for example, the latest product that we have, we've done a lot of research, a lot of trials, make sure that we nail the spectrum, because the amount and quantity of light is only one factor. But the quality of light, the colors and the spectrum is actually the most important factor. If you asked me this question 3 years ago, I would say that we are very much superior. But right now, the good news is that the whole industry is growing. We all learn from each other. We all actually adapted to the new things. So I would say that from the light perspective, we are one of the top 3 when it's come to kind of light. But when it's come to light quality, we nail it in every single instant. So the competition is fierce because light become a commodity today. However, what we are competing is actually about control agriculture in the future when we introduce automation, sensor, and we can combine all of this as one particular solution.
Om jag får lägga till också, alltså Heliospectra har ju en enorm kunskapsbas som vi sitter på, vilket är väldigt unikt för vår typ av företag inom LED-branschen. Vilket gör att vi förstår ju också att det går inte bara byta belysningen och allting ska funka perfekt heller, utan det är ju vissa saker som påverkas. Och vi står alltid redo att hjälpa våra kunder. Vi har experter inom Heliospectra som hjälper till, testar oss fram till att vi når målet hos odlare. Och jag tror att det stödet är väldigt unikt inom vår bransch, där vi faktiskt inte bara säger varsågod, här har ni era lampor, utan vi säger nu kör vi igång, nu gör vi detta och vad är ert mål? Och så jobbar vi tillsammans med odlare för att nå de målen helt enkelt.
Precis.
Hur ser lönsamheten i branschen ut? Normalt, är det en lönsam bransch det här odla i stora växthus, eller har de svårt att investera i ny teknik?
That's a good question. I will say that, again, I understand Swedish, so it's not that I'm faking it. But 4 or 5 years ago, when I joined the company, 5 years ago, when I was talking to the growers about all of this that we are offering, automation, sensor, light spectrum control, it looks like a science fiction. Today is a demand out there. Because we all, actually, as we grow as a technology company, the growers and the market also grow with us. In general, I can compare greenhouse to the dairy business. Very conventional, very traditional. Decision makings are kind of long. Everybody wants to do what is worked for my neighbor. So everyone will have somebody tested it. Nobody wants to be the first person to do it. But we passed that phase. This is a phase actually we're going to see the growth coming. Because right now, greenhouse growers like Netherlands, they're talking about autonomous greenhouse, where there is not much human interaction involved. And in order to just have autonomy, you need to have automation, you need to have sensors so you can communicate with the crop, and also we have the right solution. So I think it's become faster and faster compared to 5 years ago.
Och de når en lönsamhet med en bättre lönsamhet med er belysning då. Det betalar sig att investera.
I didn't capture that question.
Ja, nej, absolut. Jag tror att tittar du runt om i världen, så jag tror många tänker att men det är klart solljus, det är det som är mest effektivt. Och det är det ju absolut, det är underbart. Men det är ju stora delar av världen som inte har det solljuset året om. Titta i Sverige, vi har några få sommarmånader där vi kan optimera belysningen i våra växthus utan någon form av hjälp egentligen. Och där kan vi ju hjälpa till att optimera året om istället. Vilket gör att de odlarna kan ju faktiskt leverera via starka kontrakt till olika matkedjor runt om i Sverige till exempel. Men även om du tittar på söderut egentligen, i områden där du idag också tänker, de har ju solljus nästan året om. Och det stämmer, men ljuskvaliteten diffar väldigt mycket året om ändå. Vilket gör att kvaliteten på grödorna kommer fortfarande variera. Och där kan vi hjälpa till att lyfta upp. Där kan vi säkerställa kvaliteten på grödorna, smaken, sockerhalten på tomaterna. Att de levererar de målen de har året om. Och det är också en stor skillnad för de odlarna helt enkelt.
I can add one more thing is that that's everything Rebecca said was correct. But also there's so many growers, they go to the indoor growing facility that they want to do it independent from the sun. And I get this question a lot, like in countries like United Arab Emirates. There is a lot of sun available. And people say that, but sun is cheap here. Why should I just invest in the indoor facility? The answer for me, the simple answer is that sun is not cheap. Because once you expose yourself to sun, you need to take care of heat. You need to take care of diseases that is going to come with the opening the windows and everything. So at the end of the day, business case for the even indoor growing facility in a country like Dubai, where the sun is actually available, is there. Of course, price of electricity is helping a lot to the business case as well.
Tål att tänka på.
Ja, precis.
Några funderingar?
Är det samma typ av ljus för alla växter? Eller kan man...
Yeah, they're olika. So for different type of crops, there are different type of... Precis. The wavelength, the mix of the different wavelength of the diodes are different because lettuce wants something, tomato needs something else. And actually, I want to go one step further. We have a customer here in Sweden that they grow Arugula, rucola in Swedish, right? Which is actually in the basically same seed, same environment, but with completely two different flavors. One is a flavor of Arugula in Italy, because it's almost like a spicy, and the other one is the Arugula we eat every day in our salads. We all do that only with light. We kind of stimulate the crop to grow the flavor the way we want. But also, if you want to have the crop bushy or long, this is all we can do only with the light. We make sure that the crop going to have the different type of morphology as they're growing. So for that, we need to have a different spectrum. Depends on the customer need.
Det var en fråga där. Frågan gällde nya sensorer som skulle komma och hur det påverkar lönsamheten i bolaget.
Lönsamheten?
Results, basically yield.
Okay. So the sensor we are developing is based on our patented technology. We are the only company that in the world that we're using a fluorescent signal that is emitted by the crop in order to just kind of do this. I think the majority of the investment has already done, especially for the last 2 years. We've done a huge amount of investment just to productize what we have. What we are going to do next year is that definitely we would like to build some flagship accounts, make sure that there are sensors installed in the places that is actually credible. And then we're going to see and we need to work with the business model, because the business model maybe should not be transactional, maybe should be like something like as a service model. And then once we work with the business case, while we're working the trials, then we can actually start seeing the benefit as a revenue to the company. Did I answer your question? Or did I understand your question and answer your question? Yeah. Okay, great.
Någon ytterligare fundering?
I think I understand the question. I would say that if you compare to the HPS, the solution that it is used today, it is produce light, but also produce heat, which is wanted. But the question is, we are using electricity, which is a very high quality amount of energy, to produce heat, which is actually not the highest quality energy. So why don't we let the light do its job, produce photons instead of heat? And then we can use the heating system, which is actually simpler, cheaper, and more efficient. Once you combine the right light, LED, and the right heating system, you can get the same result with a much more cost-effective, basically, result at the end. Did I answer the question? Or
I think so.
you understood the question? It's about heat, right? Heat and, yeah, exactly.
Ja, tar jag en avslutande fråga här. Om jag förstår det rätt så fokuserar ni rätt mycket på cannabisodlingar och den biten, men det spåret lämnar ni delvis nu. Vad är orsaken?
I mean, cannabis was a good catalyst to the whole technology, I have to say, to horticulture, because cannabis growers, they want to optimize their solution. So growing cannabis, they always very much open to any new technology. It's slowing down in a way that in some countries like Canada, it's slowing down because there are more product produced than demand. But it still is a huge business in North America. It's a big business in Europe. So I think we're going to see the dynamic with cannabis, not as a hockey stick that we saw, because you see that a lot of companies collapsed. Yeah. But I think going to be more a steady growth towards the cannabis, medical cannabis market as well.
Okej. Tiden är tyvärr ute här, men vi får önska er välkomna tillbaka i senare tillfälle, får vi höra hur det går för er.
Absolut.
Kan berätta också att efter en liten kort paus här så kommer en kanske blivande kund till er.
Aha.
Agtira.
Ja, jag vet. Ja.
Vi får försöka sälja in det till dem.
We try. They're standing there, so we're gonna hunt you down later. Okay.
Tack så mycket för presentationen.
Have a good one.